Ahoy, fellow Hapsters and replay viewers. And I am such a fool. Halfway through the introduction, I realized that I don't have my hat. I must go get my hat. I must go get my hat. Oh, good, Jedi Sentry's here. Can you watch this broadcast and tell people I went to get my hat? How? No, impossible. I'm being impossible today. Being absolutely impossible. Gotta go get my hat. I don't know if the signal's carrying into the back portion of this place because my hat is now in the trunk at a different location than it has been. And but like I mean, charity hat. That's wrong on so many levels. Just so many levels. Just wrong. Charity without her hat. It just no, 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 no. I don't even know if you guys can hear me right now. But hat, hat. There it is with its massive plumes. Yes, plumes. All right then. Ah, how can a captain? How in the world can a captain forget their hat? Like I mean, just much better. I think I need new cedar pieces in my trunk because the hat smells like the trunk. I keep wanting to get like those hat forms that that go on a wall and they've got the domed, and the gentleman who made this hat for me also has them and sells them because it keeps its shape for longer. Actually, I think my head's not swelled today. Neither are my fingers, it seems. Everything's fitting except for that middle finger, which is always a weird thing. Arrr, matey, walk the plank, and all that other stuff, right? Captain Hook! No, no hook here. No hook here. So we give everyone. She still has both hands. Yes, yes, and many more on deck. It seems. Many more on deck. So I'm going to slide my iPad out and see if I can find some copyright-free sea shanties or this one says TikTok sea shanties. I don't know if that means they're copyright-free, but I was looking at them earlier, and some of them I actually don't recognize, which is really unusual. No, that's not what I wanted. We have to have sea shanties, and I don't have a whole band with me at the moment. Was there no such thing as a playlist for sea shanties? Oh, come on, Apple. Oh, fine, I'll take a chance with the TikTok list. Although some of these I recognize, like as you know, um, there's Stan Rogers in this list and Irish Rovers in this list, and if I remember correctly, those are not copyright free. Pirates for Sale, I know them personally. So let's see if I can do this without getting in trouble, right? Blow off the cannon, fire off the cannon. So hello everybody, or more ahoy there. Writing this in one on my own. I swiped my fingers too far. I'm so used to having this little computer plugged into a much larger screen, so my fingers just keep going. One thing, there's a lot of things about charity too that make me think back to my teenagers, including lots of rings. There was a time when I did do that quite a bit, but got annoying when I started building and sewing more often because they kind of get in the way. And you look, it's like hands are slightly different. The bigger ones are on the left hand, except for that baby one. This is a worry ring. It actually spins, which I think is cool, or fidget ring. And smaller ones on the other hand, except for this one. This one's my grandmother's, and this one came from the collection of Martin's mother's jewelry that was given to us as junk jewelry, but I think it's a Sigonia. I don't know, but it's lovely. It's got a little petal and stuff to make it like a kind of like a flower, and the cat is meowing for attention. So hello or ahoy everyone. How are we this evening? How are we this evening? I am going to let Gemma know that I am on air. I'm going to put my modern device on my old trunk. So I am hoping all our sponsors come in this time. Pretty good, she says. Yay! Yeah, I am hoping that all our sponsors come in this time because I'm solo, and it would be great if some of the sponsors can come in and be able to get on camera at the end or interject in the middle of each section to kind of say, "Hey, I'm here," and tell me I didn't butcher themselves and their characters too much. It seems to be that there's a lot of bad luck that seems to be following everyone when it comes to tech. I think it was that full moon that was just a short while ago. You have the ship's cat there to help you. Yes, yes. Although, according to the story, we have the male cat. The Jade Dragon has the male cat, and the Navy has the female cat. So I guess she's theirs then, or we lost the first one. We got a second one now. Although I'm sure she will keep the mice in check if we let her. There's no mice here. There's mice on board the ship. I'm too drunk to drive the ship. Well, that's good that you're not the navigator. All right, folks. I am hoping that the sponsors are here. I have made sure to invite you all, so hopefully I am broadcasting appropriately on your profile, which will make it easier for you to see later on. Remember, comments and stuff can be done afterwards. But we have a story to tell. Actually, let me take a swig first. This is not my nice tankard. I don't know where my nice tankard is. This is my old tankard. This is the one that I was um, using for a very long time. But you see the ding here, and it's been scratched down, and the charity name is worn off because when those engraving places engrave pretty shallow, which is kind of disappointing. But it's been hit and bumped, and you can just see the sea. So this is my old well loved tankard that hung off my hip and got smacked by many a blade over and over and over again. You can see the nicks. Yeah, there's little nicks along the outside of the lip of it. But it's still in one piece. It hasn't leaked yet, and I put really cold liquid in it. I'm using grape juice tonight to mimic port or wine. Now, a tiny little history on Charity before I get into this. Um, Charity is an ex-noble whose uncle tried to kill her and failed. She wound up on an island, deserted and on her own for a number of years, and for about 5 years, and it drove her a little nuts and off her rocker. And because of that, she tends to switch personality and laugh to herself and do a lot of crazy things. I really do miss playing her, and I'm looking forward to the days when I can get a new Jade Dragon crew together and we can, I can get out there and play her because she's such a suck up to other nobles because she's an ex noble, so she knows how to get her way. She's such a suck up to nobles to kind of just yeah, she knows how to get her way. And no one wants to argue with her because she'll scream at the top of her lungs. Unfortunately, I can't scream at the top of my lungs here because, well, yeah, I have a downstairs neighbor and an next door neighbor. So Charity is going to be subdued tonight. She's going to be very a lot calmer than she normally is. I may be able to get a chuckle or two out of her because if I really let the character take over, yeah, the neighbor is going to be calling, for help pretty quick and pretty soon. So we don't want that. We don't want that. And I'm going to put a prize together to send out to you guys with my own coin because I got tons of pieces of eight and pirate collections. And I've got J Dragon buttons. These are really nice pins. We have these custom made for anyone who's in crew. And we don't give them out. because they're crew indicators, so we have to put them on the costumes during or the cosplay during the weekend of the event. But I do have the buttons that we give out to the kids during class at events, and I'm going to make you a pirate certificate if you're the winner. I am going to use your character name if you're already a sponsor, or I will use something that'll come out of my head. So be careful what's on your profile because if it's on your app's profile, I'm going to use it to name you, to give you a pirate name. I'm going to make your real name, of course, your profile name. So unless I know your real name, then it's something else altogether. So the draw will be a combination of things that are piratey. I believe I also still have pirate tattoos. They're adorable. They're adorable. But there are a number of things that we either had made for us, or were purchased to be able to give to the kids, or swear in anyone who takes, sword classes with foam swords, of course. So those are the things I'm gonna make your prize with. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be lots of fun. So I am assuming people are there, and oh right, I said music, right?
Oh, the year was 1778. How I wish I was in Sherbrooke.
You guys start with Canadian, right?
The scummiest vessel I've ever seen. Goddamn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas
For American gold, we find no guns, shed no tears. I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last to bear its privateers. Now, who knows the difference between a pirate and a privateer? Charity's crew has been both. We have been privateers, but somehow we always manage to screw up and get demoted back to pirate again. I was told. Can you guys hear through the hair? You do, you do. Go for it. Damn them all. I was told we cruise the seas for American gold. Fired no guns, shed no tears. We're broken man on a Halifax pier, the last to bear its privateers. Was in Sherbrooke now. Oh! Eagle Bay, pumping like madmen all the way. Damn them all. I was told we'd cruise the seas for American gold. Fired no guns, shed no tears. A broken man on a Halifax pier, the last to bear its privateers. Well, she's typing as fast as she can, but no going to Google and no link. Come on. God damn them all. I was told you'd cruise the seas for American gold. We'd fire no guns, shed no tears. I'm a broken man on a Halifax pier, the last to bear its privateers. You got to the end of the song, honey. There you go. Privateer has permission from the government to attack and pillage other ships on the other side. That's right. Basically, the monarchy. It's not necessarily government because the concept of privateers went out of common use after the nobles started losing power. Government started coming into play. But yeah, so privateer has its king or queen's permission to pillage ships that they want on the condition that they get to keep a percentage. And the king or queen will make sure that the ship is always well stocked and taken care of, which means a lot to different ships. And the pirate, of course, is just, yeah, we fall outside of the government. We fall outside of the nobles. We fall outside of the. And it was very common, actually, for nobles to become privateers for other countries out of upset to their own monarchy. So when you think about it, there's no such thing as dedication unless there's a catch. Now I don't know if that's too loud because I don't see it registering on the mic. Because we're dear. It wasn't Sherbrooke now. Oh, they sailed away. Just made Halifax yesterday. I was told we'd cruise the seas, American gold, we'd fire no guns, shed no tears. One broken man on a Halifax pier. Ask the barracks, they run here. There we go. Gotta start it right, right? So, I know I was a tiny bit late, but let's start the story time. I see 164 views. I don't know how many of you are here, but that's perfectly all right. Remember, when I come back, it's going to be more charity than Christina, but I will be reading comments as much as possible. Jedi Sentry, since you are here, I would appreciate some help if you could. And keep an eye on comments for me and keep track of awards. Again, awards at the end, there will be a small draw between sponsorships and awards for a pirate prize. Um, Actually, to give everyone a few more moments, I'm going to run the Monarch promo first. Oh, did I drag it? Hold on. Did I drag it in? Oh no! Oh no! So crazy. So crazy. I played it to see it. No! How could I have not done that? I'm such a bad broadcaster. Oh, oh, well, that was an easy upload. And let's I didn't get to test it on the actual apps. So let's see if it's all right. All right, folks, enjoy the videos. And when I come back, it's time for story time.
Remember me, though I have to say goodbye. Remember me, don't let it make you cry. For even if I'm far away, I'll hold you in my heart. I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me, though I have to travel far. Remember me, each time you hear a sad guitar. Know that I'm with you the only way that I can be.
Welcome, fellow Hapsters. Our story time this time is called Pirates of the Hap Sea. Well, we have to include this wonderful form of communication. Now, it's really difficult to do anything without some noise or sound or music. So I'm going to put this in the background. So there we go. It's a little lower, so hopefully you can hear it. But my spirits are being lifted. If you think I should turn up the music, please, by all means, let me know because I am not where you are. I'm over here. Hello. So this story time has a lot to do with a bit of a flashback, so to speak. And if you'll excuse me, I had to write it down because, after some port and which is my favorite drink, rum's all right, but Not my favorite drink. Just isn't. So after some port and foolish eating and horrible treatment of myself, because I still unfortunately like the finer things in life, you tend to forget things. And then once you are presented to an audience, the last thing you need is to, well, forget things in the middle of something. Besides, I have my own personal sin right here, which may or may not interfere with finishing the story. Cheers. So, if you may humor me, it is time for Pirates of the Hatch Sea. Ahoy, fellow Hatsters of the Internet Sea! Captain Charity and Rackham at your service. And yes, sometimes I do forget that. I hold many titles. Originally a lady of the court, I began my life I was quite comfortable. But as fate would have it, I was rejected by my uncle, and his attempts to kill me led me to the J Dragon pirate crew and my captaincy. From there I have been damed by both kings and queens, taken numerous ships, therefore adding the title of Admiral to my name, declared the Pirate Queen of the North. It's true, I was declared that. It's not a title that I came up with. It was a title that others came up with, and well, I was told to accept it or else. Who am I to argue? I'm a queen now. It's interesting. You don't normally just go from a lady who is in not direct line with the throne to queen. But apparently I have. Admiral, Queen, Dame, Lady, Duchess. I've held that title as well. I believe I still do because that's the bloodline thing. Let's see. Oh, yes, of course, Captain. We can't forget that I'm referred to as Captain. Although some people who don't like me refer to me a lot of things that quite frankly I don't repeat in polite company. I assume. I assume being the keywords. I have faced death sentences, the loss of my niece, and many, many, many other torturous things that I care not to speak of. All I care at this time is that I am alive, and as well as one can be when living on a pirate ship. We shall have to talk about that at another time. I do save trivia for the little ones, but I don't mind doing some of it here. But let's just say eating on board becomes a very difficult thing when your tastes are refined. Being on the island for a while, though, I have attempted to appreciate the cook's food on board the ship. Trying to cook for myself on an island where you don't know what the food is. Yes, I never want to be cursed with that task ever again. Ever again. Hmm. So, shall we begin? Begin. Am I competing with the music, or is that all right? I've actually got my device at about 50%. And but you guys are, my fellow crew for today, and you're the one that can hear much better than me. Oh, all is silent. Did I lose you all already? God, you're worse than my crew. All right. Very well. Starting to think Sundays aren't good for this. Very well. I shall continue. And let us hope for the best. Can hardly hear it. All right. So the music is in the background. I think it's because my hair is partially insulating. Trust me, it's part of the reason I get warm. That and this lovely coat that I will never be parted from. Mm. I guess you just heard the beats. I should not do that on this side. All right. Ah, many adventures led up to these experiences, and I've had many challenges after. Allow me to share some of these challenges. And if you haven't noted yet, that I see them more as challenges than stories. In order to handle them, I tend to turn them into stories. Apparently, that's a very progressive and forward way of thinking and handling one's stress. Who knew? I've never been ahead of the game before. Or maybe I have. I'm not sure. I have always had issue with the Navy. Even as a lady of the court, the political strain the Navy put on our family was overwhelming. Suffice it to say, as a pirate captain, the Navy became a target, and that delighted me. So, when we sighted a Navy vessel off our starboard side, we could not resist the pursuit. Being early in the morning, we used the glare of the rising sun to hide our approach. And trust me, I'm not a morning person, so this is a good reason to get up. Taking down a Navy vessel is definitely a good reason to get up. She was a larger vessel than us, so we knew we could outmaneuver her in a fight. And it's true, most pirates didn't have larger vessels. Whenever we had larger vessels or kept a larger vessel after taking it down, we normally used it for storage. And it was always at the rear of the fleet because they're not very maneuverable. I mean, it's wonderful that you can put more cannons on board, but really, they're easy to take down because they can't get out of your way. The more smaller ships you have, the better. You can just maneuver around them. We surprised them as we fired a first shot and took down their foremast. Caught off guard, her crew scrambled to load and fire their cannons. In the chaos as she turned hard to port, we heard hollering from the deck as a cannon broke loose from them and went overboard. Come now, Navy. Taking a crewman with it. Shock bait. We fired a second shot and brought down their mainmast. She was now dead in the water, and many of her senior officers were still in their night clothes. It was quite the sight. It's true. The last thing you want to do is sink another vessel because there goes all your supplies, there goes replacing things. And if you've damaged things, it's not like you can go and just ask the king or queen for new. The Navy just waltz up and say, we destroyed this or lost that, and they get more. We don't do that. So it's best to take out the masts so that they cannot sail away, and then you board them. And when you board them, well, you get everything. And then you throw away what you don't want. Then you sink it if you don't need it. Don't sink it first. It's kind of useless if you it was quite yes. Mm. Pulling up alongside, we threw our boarding hooks. See, there's the boarding thing. Oh, I should turn off my sound. Oh, it seems tonight's co-host is having a hard time getting on the internet. See, not on anything else because we're not that kind of broadcast. Um, I tried tethering, but it won't work. I thought it was midnight my time. You're going live. I'll keep trying now. 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. Oh, she was off by half an hour. Trying though. I am on your broadcast with my phone, and the sound is trippy on there too. Trippy? Oh, that's just because we're all drinking. There's absolutely nothing to do with the internet. See, it's just we're all drunk, so everything is trippy. It's fine. It's all right. You obviously had a head start on me. Connection issues on and off all day, but have a full outage. Oh no! I've contacted my provider in a couple of places, but no reply. Well, it's completely understandable. I'm starting to think that the world is trying to abandon me, much like charity has been abandoned many times. And hopefully, I don't go as crazy as she has. I'm not birthday drunk. No, 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 no. We're pirates. You are drunk. It's all right now. We can be not birthday drunk after. Oh, by the way, happy birthday. Congratulations for surviving another go around the sun. But if you can still see me and see the broadcast, if you would be kind enough to keep an eye on who gives awards so that I can do a proper draw when this is all over. And I mean like lottery type draw. And I don't mean death lottery. Oh my God. Pirate lingo is just dangerous. Everything is something else that originated way back when and means something different nowadays, I've been told. Cool drunk is good, yes. Pirate drunk is wonderful. Well, I'll see you pop up if. Oh, good God, that could mean something else for a pirate in the 1700s. I will watch for you, and when I see your lovely face, I'll tuck you in the corner, and you can say hello or ahoy, as it should be, apparently. Sounds like the Queen has constipa. Yes, sometimes it does. You're right. I'll do so from here. Yes. No, no, no. Historically, like we are not accurate for what we do, but we always want to make sure the kids learn, and the little sprogs have to learn properly. We actually didn't make people walk the plank. Walk the rail, yes, because the rail has support, but walk the plank, no, because when you're out in the middle of the sea or the ocean, the last thing you want is a plank of wood to break under someone's weight, because you might be needing it for repair. So we actually did not make people walk the plank. We put holes in their body and threw them overboard, tied to a long rope, and renamed them shark bait because, contrary to belief, we actually quite we're actually quite spiritual. And again, when you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere and everything around you is just water, you can't eat the body because that's against the preachings of the Bible. It's amazing how you can warp words when you need to. So instead, we use them as bait for sharks, and we eat the sharks, and then we give the person a funeral. Did you know bodies float? It's really amazing. We think when we're nervous and full of air, but we float when we die and the air leaves our body. Go figure. Yes, they don't have good. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Lisa, there's no plane interrupting a blooper and Pirates of the Caribbean. Yes, you were saying that the other day. Hello, Lisa. Yes, you were saying that the other day. And I was telling you the lovely story about our great audience with planes overhead, and because of our time period, we could not register them. So we would all take cover in the middle of a scene and scream dragon, because that's what they are to us: large, ugly, stinky dragons, says the woman who captains a ship called the J Dragon. I shall shut up now. Well, thank you, Gemma. Thank you, thank you. I'm rather fond of my attire. It's been quite the investment over the years, and I've saved up my cut of the crew pay in order to be able to afford to look like a captain. Thank God the captain gets a bigger cut. However, it's never enough. Like, I mean, my hat was custom made. My feathers are constantly ordered. It's not like you can get large fluffy plumage while you're out in sea. And of course, my coat was custom made as well. And my boots. I love my boots. My boots are, to me, if you can see them, it's hard to see the side, but they are the most incredible things I've ever worn. It was actually very common. The Navy had a different idea of what boots were. It's a shame because those little heels and those hard soles, you can't climb. You can't wrap your foot around. But that's why senior officers wore them, because senior officers are stupid in the Navy. So, no offense to any senior officers that are out there. I'm sure if you change sides one day, you'll see that there's a lot more work involved with being a pirate, but at the same time, there's a lot more um, growth, personal growth. But our shoes are much, it's very similar to what the crews wear. except for a captain, I've got high boots, but they're more moccasins, so your foot can wrap around the rail and wrap around the ropes. And I'm very willing to work, even though I'm an ex-noble. I'm very, very willing to work for my ship, and they help me do that. So don't ever call me weak. I will take you down. As you can see right now, I am not wearing my sword. My sword stayed away tonight because there's no room. There's absolutely no room. So I'm swordless, but I know where it is. Uh, Full of air, yes. Some people are definitely full of hot air. Yeah, yes. The pirates do not. Who's this Kalis? Pirates are actually very religious. We were mostly Christian or Buddhist, or we have a spirituality about us because you see, for us, we're always doing right, and all religion can be manipulated to say exactly what you want it to. Prove me wrong. Time for a partner. No, it's a very tight shot today. So we will continue with the story. Here we go. Here we go. She was now dead in the water, and many of her senior officers were still in their nightclothes. That's how quickly we took them down. It was quite a sight. Pulling up alongside, we threw our boarding hooks and drew ourselves in. Planks were laid across from rail to rail, and that is when I noticed the name of the ship. She was the Hapston. We boarded her with no problem. Most of her crew were inexperienced. Silly Navy. It appeared that she was a vessel filled with crew still learning how to function on board. They looked to have potential, but only time would tell. There were these two intrepid lieutenants who seemed to know much of the ship. They appeared to be constantly telling the rest of the Hapston's crew how to do things and talking about weekly themes for them to accomplish. Behind them was a man in a very plumed hat that attempted to rival mine. It appeared that we had ourselves a Navy admiral. My thoughts immediately went to this should be fun. I love bumping down Navy admirals. I set two of my men against the lieutenant while I sized up the admiral. He drew his sword. Well, if you could call it a sword. Their swords are small and skinny, and technically in a battle, quite useless. Oh, right, I digress. It's not the kind of broadcast, right? I'm sorry, I shall apologize. And continue on. Naval officers rarely had more than ceremonial swords, no match for my trusty cutlass. And that's a big difference as well. When it came to pirates, your crew had the smaller swords, and they were large and they were thick and wide, but they were short because you send your crew on the other ship first. And when you've got all these other crew around you, you want those short blades to be able to swing. Whereas the Navy, the longer ones, the longer swords are the crew. I'm sorry, as charity, my mind tends to, it's very frustrating when there's maybe only one or two good looking men on your crew and you're usually the only woman on board. Usually. So anyway, pirates commonly, you could tell the senior officers because they had the longer swords because they could afford them. And the crew had the shorter swords so they can fight in close quarters. Whereas the Navy did it the other way around. So by the time they pulled out their longer swords, my apologies, by the time they pulled out their longer swords, um, they were dead. It just made no sense. Anyway, I have a tendency to chuckle as I size up the competition, which is true. Laughing, I took my first swing. He blocked very awkwardly, but held off my attack. He reminded me of another admiral I used to play with years ago. So I blurted out the same nickname I used to use on that admiral back then. Not bad, chicken hat! You know, a chicken hat for the fluffy dow of a chicken on the hat. is why I call them chicken hat because I don't use any chicken feathers, but they do. You would think they would make an effort and have more exotic feathers. After all, they do have the backing of the nobles, kings, queens, foolish people, unfortunately. He got all uncomfortable with the name calling and foolishly tried to swing again. It's great. Once you get them all puffy, it's fairly easy to have them on their knees and disarmed in a very short time. How to do okay. Ah! Hello, Ash. Thank you for joining us. Any awards given during the broadcast will be put into a draw. The whole time I could see, from the corner of my eye, my men fighting the lieutenants. They fought well, but not well enough. My men had made short work of the lieutenants and had them uncomfortable as well. It doesn't take much. If you go for the senior officers right away, it's really quite easy. It seems that their ship had 4.7 million pounds in investment on it and were concerned about whether or not the crew could honor that investment if something were to happen to them, of course. We brought great attention to them and their crew when we decided, like pirates often do, to bring them all on board the Jade Dragon in order to convince the crew to join us. Could always use more crew, especially since technically I do have 5 ships. I'm not sure where the other 4 are at this moment, but we always meet up somewhere. And they are my ships. They do fly my captain's flag. Ah! Thank you so much, Ash. Now, you see, pirate crews use senior Navy officers as a bargaining chip to convince the Navy crew to join the pirate crew. We presented their officers on deck. We thought it honorable to ask their names first, before sending them to heaven or hell, depending on, of course, their lives. The shorter, darker skinned one introduced himself as Paul Wood. I snorted out a chuckle, as did my crew. Lieutenant Wood looked confused, so I repeated his last name over and over again before giving up and turning to his counterpart. The other was taller, a fairer gentleman. Asking his name, he proudly responded, Peter Cox. Now, we all know Cox is a last name gifted to families gifted to families who are coxswains, which of course is another naval term and job. But you know, it's Cox. How can you not chuckle at Cox? Why they didn't even make an effort to call themselves Coxswain as their last name? I have no idea. But you know, Cox. I'm sorry, I appear to be even more amused than I normally am. I waited a moment as myself and my crew chuckled. He also looked confused, but I repeated his name over and over. One of the crew even shouted, It's not that kind of broadcast, just for you. Just for you, it's going to be in here. But it went over his head. Typical Navy, so drab. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. If you want to recommend this broadcast for the actual stream of the week, you will find the link in our description. And I recommend that all broadcasters on HAPS put the link to the broadcast of the week recommendation in their descriptions on their main page so that your viewing audience can easily find it when they're amused. And trust me, as Charity, I'm easily amused, even more so than I am as Christina. Luckily, I didn't have any ale in my mouth. I, yes, well, if you do decide to drink ale, especially something like rum, which is sugar, make sure you aim away from your device. If you aim at it, it'll be a mistake. I was on a roll with this, so I turned to their admiral and asked him for his name. Admiral Goldstein, he proudly barked. Well, all the chuckles stopped. This was not a usual name for a British naval Navy admiral. It sounded kind of Jewish. And the Jews were kicked out of England by this point. But nonetheless, I continued. It wasn't a funny name. It was not a funny name. It was unusual and there was no joke to be had. That's when Lieutenant Wood, began to chuckle to himself. Wood, he repeated, shaking his head. Cox! Cox! He began to laugh more. Took a few moments before Lieutenant Cox joined into the laughter. I now get it, Lieutenant Cox responded. Her last names are bloody suggestive, and our admiral's is not. I was not going to ask them how long they'd been sailing together and the fact that they didn't realize this until now, but it is what it is. CO COX, but yes, we you know it is what it is, right? Ah, I'm the cook, so I have open flame nearby. Ah, a small flame like a candle, because then you got some marshmallows. I haven't had marshmallows in a long time. I have aimed my spray throw nothing into at my device way too many times. I am thankful for splash-proof phones. Oh my! Hello, spots for the blind. Sit down, relax, pour yourself something. Don't laugh at your screen if you have, because apparently the spray will damage devices. I am not sure why they suddenly found everything excessively funny, that their names were suggestive, and his was not, but they had finally caught up with the joke, and the rest of us. Foolish Navy. The Admiral, of course, looked offended, as admirals are very good at doing. Even I, on occasion, look offended. If my crew were present, I am sure they would point out that it's more than on occasion. He spouted, you cannot insult an officer of the King's Navy. I am a Rear Admiral, and I am Rear Admiral Goldstein. Oh my. I could not resist. I simply could not resist. Rear! He's a Rear Admiral. Within a microsecond, both crews were laughing. Great. I just couldn't resist as I hollered. They are the front. And you, dear Admiral, are the back. Oh! Ahoy! Please tell me that's Flint. How is your rest stay going, Flint? Was our crew really that much for you to handle? That you had to take a rest? Well, good on you. Something I should be taking, but of course, as we all know, charity and rests are something very different than actually focusing on anything but all the fun she never got to have when she was a noble. Right, I'm still a noble because the blood's still in me. The crew hasn't even tried to bleed me yet. I'd probably go more insane. So let's not. No, Flint, look what I'm using. I could not find my pretty one, so I'm using my old one. And as you know, you inherited my old one. So technically, I'm using your tankard, Flint. Flint's here, doing fine. Thank you, Flint, for being able to join us. Now, Flint, if I believe I have two ladies now keeping track of any awards. Oh, how much time the King's Guards are living. Yes, good to hear, Flint. It's too bad where he is, he cannot be on camera, but that is particularly all right. We're just happy to have Flint here. Flint's working really, really hard on himself. And even as my quartermaster right now, you're temporarily my gunner because well, I'm firing the gunner in the story when we're all done. So I look forward to stability before I go and hand you more black powder. Is that acceptable, Flint? And how long are you here, please? All right. Um, I must get back to this. I will glance over in a moment because good, good. Joke on, we had to move on. I was concerned about a distant cloud bank that was creeping up on us in the distance. I announced that if the crew would join us, we would spare the lives of the officers. See, it's common that you first make the offer, and then because they're always so scared, being Navy officers, of of the Navy itself, you threaten to kill, and you always start with the captain. And since I had an admiral present, I would start with the admiral. Come to think of it, their ship did not have a captain. Wonder what happened to their captain. I should find out one day, because then I could laugh at them even more. But yes, so you start killing off senior officers, starting with the highest rank, until crew agrees to join. And any crew that does not agree to join, because they are crew, not senior officers, we tend to leave them on an island somewhere. Where am I? So they did not join us. We used their senior officers as shock bait. Just then we noticed that the Navy's ship Cat had casually sauntered over to our ship and was making friends with our cat Arthur. One of the Navy's junior crewmen noticed them snuggled up together in a coil of rope. The crewman didn't know how to break the tension, nor did he know which side he was actually going to wind up on. So he awkwardly blurted out, "Look! Pursley found a friend." A collective "aw" passed over both crews. My mind was stuck on the name of the cat, though. How delicate a male's name is, Pursley. I I figured it out. It was much like, all those P sounding noble names or navy names, Percival or you know those royal names that just sets them up for being more targets. So Pursley seemed to make sense for a navy cat, but nonetheless, I could not believe that this conflict could take a backseat to cats of all things. Oh, but they were adorable. The cats were very, very adorable. The crewmen took advantage of everyone's weaknesses. Could he spouted out, could we just not trade necessities for life? Can we not be inspired by our feline companions? That's when I realized that I had an admiral and two lieutenants that might actually be good to their crew, and I was not going to get anywhere with them. So, like any good captain, especially a pirate captain that can be voted out, I agreed. We could call it a moment of weakness, but in the long run, it made much more sense. We bargained to allow the officers to return to the ship in exchange for several barrels of gunpowder, fresher meat than what we had. Sorry, cook. The stuff you've been cooking with is bleh. Sail material. Sails always need patch jobs, and I'm really tired of giving up pants for patch jobs. Although I'm sure Dawn would agree that that would be just fine. Sorry, Dawn. You have to keep some pairs of pants. You can't keep offering them the patch of sails. Spices, cannonballs, and fresh ale. I didn't want any of their cannons because ours were just fine and in very good shape. And after watching one of theirs go into the drink, I'm not sure theirs were up to standard anymore. I made a number of conclusions in my head and continued on. Once negotiations were done, they returned to their ship, taking their cat with them. It was difficult to find the two cats as they had hidden away as supplies came on board our ship. But once we did, we separated the two and we were on our way. Well, I never what? What? We got better meat from the Navy, all right? Don't complain. Pansies! Flint is right, they're pansies. Cats are adorable. Not so much when one pees on one's floor, but nonetheless, still adorable. Yes, well, the smell of the crew makes it very easy to ignore the smell of the cats and what they may do. Oh, now my 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 land kitty is now rubbing against the tripod and speaking up. What? Did you find that offensive? Your cooking can't be that bad. Well, they say it's only as good or bad as your tools. It was several weeks later, while we were in Tortuga, that we saw the Hapston docked across the harbor. We paid them no mind, but on a return to the Jade Dragon that night, we were met with three kittens in a basket with a note that read, "These are your faults, Charity." Took me a moment. I didn't think I could give birth to kittens, but I put two and two together, and well, it turns out their cat was female, not male, and it was signed Admiral Goldstein. Think it should have been signed Admiral Chicken Hat, but that's just my opinion. Oops. Arthur mysteriously was nowhere to be seen. I figured he's prowling Tortuga for more conquests. We traded one cat for three, it seemed. I suppose there would be fewer rats on board now. We named the kittens Cobbs, Clam, and Quinn in honor of past crew. One day I will find out where that crew went. Meow. Yes, yes. How dare I ignore? She will not come up on a lap. She's not a lap cat, which is why she stays on land and does not come with us on the ship. But no, you must be sitting on something much wider than my chair, my captain's chair, in order for her to take part. I realized I didn't put my belt on either. Oh well. Now, that is not the only time we fought for our lives, being a pirate ship and all. Let me tell you the time a powder monkey may have been our downfall. Now, you know what a powder monkey is, do you not? A powder monkey is the smallest member of the crew. They run the gunpowder from the sealed room to the belly of the ship, to up to the cannon. So we keep the powder in one room that is not, well, flammable to a certain degree, but is fairly waterproof. And small amounts would come from there up to the deck in order to load the cannons. You kept it separate because if you keep a large amount of powder in easy reach of things like lanterns or pipes or cigars or, well, suffice it to say, boom, everything boom. So we have powder monkeys running the powder. It's much safer. So they're usually the smallest member of the crew. They run the gunpowder from the sealed room in the belly of the ship up to the cannons. We never have all the powder in reach, as the wood of a ship is sealed by tar, and that's another very important point. It's not the safe thing to do. If you do get my drift, I hope. So the smallest member of the crew is chosen to be the poor soul to run through everyone's feet or between them to safely deliver smaller amounts to the cannons, just to run down to get more and fuel the battle safely. Well, as safe as a battle can get. We were once caught in the heat of battle one dreary day when our gunner called out for more powder to the cannons. We were taking heavy fire from a Dutch merchant vessel, Mr. Smee Bundick. Yes, I know. He doesn't have the most blessed name on the planet. The gunner was not a patient man, and cursed for more powder. I watched from the quarterdeck as Ron Howler, our stocky boatswain, called out for the powder monkey. Ron is normally a patient man, but his post on board called for a need to be aggressive when called for. I tried to remember who our powder monkey was at that time. I'd forgotten that we had run out of we had had a run of bad luck with powder monkeys blowing up as they trip. It's not just a flame that lights your gunpowder. Tripping can too. A moment later, a tall, awkward crew member stumbled up from below decks with two casks of powder under his arms. He was well over 6 feet tall and stumbled between frantic crew. He kept getting tangled in lines and almost dropped the casks. I nervously watched as he ducked under the yardarm and came face to face with Mr. Howler. Now, there's another fact, too. Do you know it's yar, not ar? Because it's the yardarm. When the wind hits the sail, sometimes the yardarm flies all the way across the deck, and it takes way too long to say, watch out, or hit the deck, or anything else like that. So you holler yar, short for yardarm. So that's where that comes from. So next time you say R, correct yourself. Say yar. And watch as a true pirate will always go, where? Not on board a ship. What's the yard on? Shouldn't be on land. Boom! The two men paused for a moment as Ron looked the powder monkey up and down as the powder monkey awkwardly smiled. She's really sucky tonight. Oh, I know, baby girl. Everything is fine if you get in my lap. I know. Internet's unstable, won't be able to stay on much longer. I'll try for 5 more minutes. Very well. Don't leave without honoring your captain. I thought Ron was going to burst a blood vessel as he asked him, how in the seven seas did you, of all people, get to be powder monkey? Do you ever fit below decks? The powder monkey awkwardly replied with, just barely, sir. I was concerned about the well-being of the battle and had to keep things moving. I hollered at the powder monkey to keep going with his package. I just realized what I said, package. Not that kind of broadcast? He whipped around and with his package. He whipped around and spouted out, yes, ma'am. Sir? Ma'am? Sir? I tried not to be too disappointed as I snapped, just captain will do. What be your name, sir? They call me Sea Monkey Dawn, he hollered back. I began to breathe again as he snapped to and got the first batch of powder to the gunner. It's a Cox's package. Oh, I love having true bits on board. He was the least likely choice for powder monkey, so as everyone was running about, I went through the last powder monkeys we have had and ran around the chaos towards both gunner and bosun. I asked them what happened to Timmy. He was our last powder monkey, if memory serves me right. Howler responded, he blew up, Captain. Oh, well, what of Sue's? The response came, blew up, Captain. Smee fired off another shot. How about little Marty? He seemed a persistent little one. Boom! Howler replied back. Oh, yes, I remember that one. That was a serious ouch. Then I remembered, I flashed back to a time when we actually had a monkey on board, and that seemed to enjoy running the powder. So I asked, and they looked at me exasperated and responded with a hand in actions to indicate that he blew up as well. I noted as I remembered that we never found the remains of that little guy. More powder! Smee suddenly hollered. He was getting more upset by the minute. Sea Monkey had already scrambled awkwardly back down the ladder below decks to get more powder. Once back up, he tried to navigate his way through the chaos once more. I was partially grateful that Smee's rolling of eyes and me turned. Oh my lord! I was obviously very drunk when I wrote this. I was partially grateful that Smee's rolling of eyes at me turned to shooting dawn and menacing glare. Oh, there it is. Just a apostrophe missing apparently. As he hollered, "Come on, you seaweed of a man!" With his height and with the way he moved, I could see the seaweed reference as being very valid. This time he decided it was a much easier route to walk the rail away from the chaos and above the guns. It worked. Sort of. You see, the final shots were fired and the Dutch ship was sunk. Oops. I think we aimed too low. We had not intended to sink her, but these things do sometimes happen. We stopped where we were and hollered success, but unfortunately, Cheers did not notice Sea Monkey hollering from above the rail and slipping overboard. Oh, Smee. No one noticed that Powder Monkey slipped overboard. We are not sure how far down he went, but we never saw him again. This just proves that there are certain jobs for certain people, and never should they be handed to whomever is just available. Our new powder monkey, young John, is doing quite well. I'm sure his mother is proud. And the sooner I get him out of that job of powder monkey, the better. They have to start somewhere after all. I hope he grows really fast. Oh, where am I? Right. After things like that sort of just happen, you need a good meal to eat your woes away. Losing a powder monkey is a sad thing. I went below deck with Flint to see if the cook. Oh, there you go, Flint. To see if the cook had what the cook had in store for us that evening. Nas, the butcher, Dreschen, was an imposing woman. She had made herself quite an effective galley down in the hold. Her pot was always boiling on a stove we had looted from a German frigate some months before. As I approached her, Flint went about sorting through some sailcloths we had recently acquired from the Navy vessel, of course. If I remember correctly, from the Navy vessel. I asked her what was for dinner. It was a simple question, so she gave me a simple answer. She told me she had got a good fish stew boiling with some of those parsnips she dug up in Bermuda. She seemed so proud of herself, but my stomach could simply not handle more fish stew. I visibly gagged in order to make my point clear that this was just not going to do. She saw this, no one could miss it, and reassured me to not worry. She told me that she had got a special pot going for me on the side. She lifted the lid so I could see and whispered, "Lamb with parsnips and potatoes." The smell was hypnotizing, and my mouth started watering. I thanked her and left her to it. Never interfere cooking. They get sidetracked enough to burn your meal. It's on your head. Young John. Young John is not so young anymore. Flint remained below to complete his tasks. Once he and I, along with my first mate, sat down to eat, he had quite a story to tell. It turns out that our youngest crew member, Billy Hypes, had also been below and had heard my exchange with the cook. He foolishly decided to push his luck. As Flint told the story, it went something like this. And Flint, if you're still here, you can tell me if I'm wrong. "What's for dinner, fair lady?" he asked the cook, trying to smooth talk her. "Fish stew," she replied, unimpressed. "Can I have some of that lamb stew, right? I mean, the captain will not notice." He winked at her. "She most certainly will. I make enough for her and her immediate senior officers only. No leftovers." She took a pause. She counted. One, two. Well, he was not going to let it go. "Has anybody ever told you how radiant your eyes are? They're deep and blue as the sea itself." It was obvious he was still plotting. "They're hazel," she snapped, "and flattery will get you nowhere." She apparently glared at him during it. Crazy lad would just not stop. "And your skin," he spouted. "It's as soft as—" Well, she cut him off. "My skin is as tough and leathery as a sea turtle. That's what comes from being at sea most of my life. You're just a young buck. You don't belong here in my kitchen. Now get out." She scolded him as she brandished her big wooden spoon. Well, then he replies, "Maybe I'll fare better complimenting the captain herself." Well, the cook knows me better than the upstart. Our cook, being a wise woman as well, and a loner on the crew, advised him it was not a waste of his time. Sorry, advised him it was a waste of his time. Not unless she's got some hidden riches, not unless you've got some hidden riches to offer the captain, or something that'll help the crew. She'll have nothing to do with you. She is right. I will never budge. Flattery is nice, but I'm the suspicious sort. Flattery is always suspicious. Flint tells me that he put his hand on the boy's shoulder and promptly found him something to occupy his time. He was swabbing the deck. The lamb stew tasted especially good that evening. especially after Flint told me the tale of the young upstart. So there, sticks tongue out. I'm so proud of my cook. As long as she keeps me happy, she stays my cook. I love being captain. There comes a time when one must go to shore, so we headed to Tortuga for a rest. On the nose, mustache, Captain. Calm seas and fair winds to you. Fare thee well, all your scallywags. Talk to you tomorrow, Captain, if you must. I assume, being a good quartermaster, you're taking care of all that you're supposed to, and that we will have a very productive ship. If not, well, we'll have to do something about that. Besides, Flint, if I remember correctly, you wanted to be captain again in your own ship. So you have to work hard to have your own ship. Let's not lose it this time if I do give you one, all right? Flint. Yes, I know your quartermaster took off with it. Stop blaming her. Let's move on. Tortuga. It was a stress relieving night. I had found a lovely place to meet with some interesting ladies and a few gentlemen who were able to provide some much needed services. Yes, I know it's not that kind of broadcast, but fortunately, most of us from that time period stuck on ships. We are those type of people. God will always forgive us. Cutthroat Kate, my first mate, had gone off to the pub and had given me her location in order to meet up with her after I was done. I waited outside the pub, and she came running out to me excited. She exclaimed that she had found us a new musician. I considered her words as we had recently lost ours, and since musicians are usually the person who runs mass every Sunday, we had been living in sin for a few weeks. It's true. As long as you have a mass of some sort, you can be forgiven. So, you know, yes, absolutely. Yes, yes, we are. It's quite easily interesting going from noble to pirate. Did you know that pirates truly believe that we are acting on the will of God? It is true, as I had stated. We say our prayers every Sunday and hold Mass to the best of our abilities. And of course, we usually have people on board who are of different religion. And as long as they can modify their schedule to include Sunday morning while we are having Mass, they are free to go to the bow or the stern, depending on which point of the ship we're at, in order to have their moment. We never judge as pirates. As long as we're there for the benefit of the ship and the crew, we're good. We pillage for two main reasons: profit, we are technically a business after all, and to knock down those who live by the ways of greed. Because, we're not greedy, she says with her outfit completely in view. Nobles have it all and never earned it. They claim it is a gift of God, showing that they are superior. Well, I should know. I was one. Technically, I still am. I have blue blood in me, but won't go into too much detail. I'm obviously making up for my years of noble behavior. Moving on. Since the last one had been accidentally eaten by a shark after a fiddle playing mishap that accidentally led him overboard, I wanted to pick and choose who I would bring on board. But Cutthroat Kate must be the most adorably convincing first mate I have ever had. Watching her jump up and down was making me weak. I do believe I gave in. I told her to do whatever she saw fit, as I sighed and walked off to find my quartermaster in order to do some shopping, of course, for the ship, not for me, for the ship. Get my pay, fair for my position, of course. Ah, hello, Chrissy. When the story is over, I will happily have some people in. All awards will get entered into a draw where I will be putting together a prize this time for my personal pirate stuff. So it'll be like pieces of eight and a J Dragon button and a whole bunch of like I've got some pirate tattoos and I'm going to put together a little mystery prize this time. It was hours before I returned to the J Dragon. I was upset at Flint as he held his ground on purchasing unnecessary items. I simply wanted and expected me to pay for them with my own cut of the cake. Well, I really should read my own writing because apparently I was sober when I wrote this, or was I drunk? In hindsight, I suppose I didn't want it as much as I thought I did, as I would have purchased it, as I'm expected to say, um, to try to keep the crew from voting me off. Bet you want to know what it was. No, let's not do that. I'm going to refuse to answer that. As there may be little ones around, and we don't want to upset the little ones. So let's move on. I completely ignored everyone as I immediately hollered to set sail and went to my cabin to collect myself. I heard Flint holler for others to collect the items that were purchased from shore, bring them on board, and we'll be on our way. I also heard him remark something about me stuck in poof mode. That's his way of pointing out that um, the noble in me sometimes does surface. But it's the noble in me that knows how to control the other nobles and get us what we acquire and how to take down another noble. And if it wasn't for my history, we'd have a small fraction of what we have. So, I can't read my own. What? Another blooper from BOTC. I can't read my own writing. Yes. Yes. Oh. Um, if this was handwritten, I could say it. An hour later, now out at sea, of course, I finally came back on deck. I looked proudly at the crew doing their tasks and even pitched in at pulling the sail ropes and tying them to the belaying pins. I do work, you know. I'm not completely who I was. You can't be. You can't survive if you stay that way. I was in a lovely space until I was surprised to see a tall man with an outstanding mustache tied to the main mast. Kate, who I hope is still present, Jedi Senshi. Kate was sitting on a barrel, regaling him with tales of our exploits. I approached with a look of curiosity on my face. I carefully asked Kate who this man was. She just smiled and proudly announced, "The musician, of course. You did say to do whatever I saw fit. Did you not?" Well, I could only answer that I suppose I did. I had to ask her, "Why is he tied to the mast?" She smiled and delightfully chuckled. "I press ganged him." Now, how you managed to press gang him since you're so small and he's so much larger, I don't know. I don't want to know. So I answered as gently as I could with, "You press gang the poor man. We don't really need a musician that badly. Some of us do play, and I do have my drum." She tilted her head at me and looked at me with that rolly eyed look and took a risk. "Don't you think your drums are too tribal for Sunday Mass?" I watched as she sort of ducked and shrugged and struggled to resist slapping her across the head. I struggled to resist slapping her across the head. It's one of my favorite things to do from the back, too, because you can knock off a hat. It's beautiful. As long as it's not my hat, everything's fine. Hmm. I pulled myself together and asked, "Do you even know his name?" She straightened back up and proudly declared, "This is Blowhard Red Eye. He plays the concertina." I thought about his name and reached over to remove the gag she had obviously placed there in order to convince him to listen and not speak. That, or there was more to the name of Blowhard than I expected. I gently asked him. You should be polite first and snap second, you know. You have to work up to it. I gently asked him, where did you get the name Blowhard if you play concertina? He was obviously confused and kept looking at Kate with fear in his eyes. The kind of fear you see in someone's eyes when a goldfish turns out to be a piranha, when you reach in for an easy catch with your hand, and in seconds your hand is missing. He was obviously worried she'd go from small perky pirate to vicious beast any second now. He swallowed hard and answered me with, my concertina needs a bit of a push start, so I need to blow into it before I play. That's also how I got the name Red Eye. I was not going to point out to him that you don't fill the concertina with your mouth. But it's his instrument. I took a moment to let that sink in, of course, before simply an aha came out of my lips. I rolled my eyes and retired to my quarters. We have blowhard, Cox, wood, and package. But it's not the type of no, it's not the type of broadcast. These are all quite acceptable for the time period. Completely acceptable for the time period. I'm still all ages. I carefully make sure that I am all ages. In the morning, I came upon deck to find Blowhard still tied up, with Kate continuing to natter away at him. I tried to ignore this situation, but as captain, I had to stop and ask, you were not in your bunk last night. Have you been out here all night? Kate straightened up proudly once more. Yes, I. Mr. Red Eye is a great listener. She grinned. Another came from my mouth. I collected myself and tried to be gentle. Does it look like he has a choice? I asked. So, hang on. I'm going to pull this down just a tiny bit. Okay. Now it's even quieter in the background. You were not in your bunk last night. Have you been out here all night? Kate straightened up proudly and said, yes, Mr. Red Eye is a great listener. She grinned at me. Another came from my mouth. I collected myself and tried to be gentle. Does it look like he has a choice? I asked. She simply nodded her head as I shook mine. She then turned her nod to a shake. It took her a moment. Untie him, I barked. So she did. She moved faster than I had ever seen her move before, but she did untie him. I looked back and forth between him and Kate as he stood up uneasily and stretched out the stiffness of a night tied to the mast. He seemed nervous. Still not sure why, but I hear musicians are like that. He very awkwardly spouted out, excuse me, but I must return to shore. I have a wife and 8 children. 8 children. And then turned to leave the ship. He suddenly stopped at the rail and looked around. That is when he noticed that there was no dinghy. I walked over to him and gently put my hand on his shoulder. He jumped, but I believe he was listening to me. I had to break the news to him gently. It would be a while before we would see them again. He had set sail last night, and no dinghy, and with no dinghy, as Flint had lost it as well, there was no way back to shore. His face dropped with the words, "What of my 10 children?" And there was a pause. I mean 6 children. Then another pause. Or was that 8 children? Well, well, he tried. Well, he tried. Goose bye bye. To remember how many children he had had. I suspect he either really did lose count somewhere, or he was lying. I simply added, earn your keep here, and you'll get home eventually. With that, I turned around and took my place on the quarterdeck. I listened as Red Eye and Kate discussed the job. Once he stopped counting possible children on his fingers, he began. What's my place on this crew? He hollered back at me. I simply shook my head. You'll have to talk to me. Kate brought his attention back to her. She tried to gently explain that I was not in the mood. I get like that sometimes. He puffed up at her. She was not backing down. He persisted. I've listened to you talk all night. I haven't gotten a word in edgewise, he shouted. I had to laugh when she calmly responded with, that's why I gagged you. He shifted his weight and like a child having been part of his place child having been put in his place, he finally calmly asked her, well, what do I do here? Her answer was so matter of factly stated, it is Sunday. So we need you to hold mass for the crew. His mouth dropped open. Oh, do not get me wrong. I'm no chaplain. I am not ordained, but I am not able. She smiled smugly as she answered, does not matter to us. The musician is always the chaplain. I watched as he ran this through his head over and over again. He began to panic. This is unacceptable. I will not do it. Kate chuckled politely with the gentleness of a goldfish, and suddenly she, like the piranha, became offended and pulled her dagger. You will because I say you will. Would you like to see how I got the name Cutthroat Kate? He leaned back out of reach, but didn't take a step away. She was short enough that he didn't have to. He looked around and saw the whole crew waiting for his response. He pulled himself together and finally calmly responded, all right, you win. What else do I do? He asked. She put the dagger away. Well, it is Sunday, so you have a small mass and then nothing. He looked confused at her. Nothing? She chuckled. Nothing. The rest of the day is yours. No one else gets a day off, not even the captain. He looked up at me and I smiled. I had to tell him that the rest of the week he is a member of the crew, and if not hauling the lines or working, his job is to play in order to keep spirits up. He nodded gleefully and just chirped, right, well then, who's got a Bible? Obviously, he liked the fact that Sundays it's off for him while the rest of us work. I strolled over to my Bible and picked it up and brought it to him. Told him that he needed to find a pen and paper to copy my Bible so he doesn't need to borrow mine all the time. But with that, we got a new musician and technically a chaplain. He sailed with us until our next stop in Tortuga. And then I suppose we never found out how many children he actually has. I'm sort of hoping he lost count. Because if he was lying and I find out, I'll hunt him down. And it will not be pretty. Oh, looks like the last story. Our next land stop was Port Royal. We needed shelter from the storm and a good meal. And we were conveniently nearby Port Royal. We had to go to shore. We had no choice. Absolutely no choice. It's only the most favorite place for everyone on crew, including myself. The crew and I made our way down the main street, selecting our destinations. The crew, as usual, chose the Frog and Fiddle, but I needed something more fitting of my status. I bid them farewell and made my way to the Queen's Head Tavern. As I entered, I was greeted by Celtic music and the most energetic wench in all of Port Royal, Lily Galestrom. She was a powerhouse of hospitality. You should have seen her run the gauntlet of tables, serving tankards of ale while cavorting with the patrons. She never missed a table nor spilled a drink. She almost twirled right into me and stopped face to face. She chirped up with, Captain Charity, I assume. I smiled. She must have heard of me. I asked if she had heard of me. She simply stated sort of and led me to a table in the back corner. As I passed the bar, the innkeeper, Vicky Porter, shouted, Captain Charity, been a few months since I've seen you around here. I pointed out that I did not recognize Lily and asked if last time I was here, was I drunk or was Lily not employed here last time I was by? She chuckled that I was probably drunk, but no, Lily was not here last time I was by. She smiled and went back to wiping down the bar. She was always very particular about cleanliness. Now, for those of you who think we drink on board, we're not allowed to get drunk on board. That's why the cruise alcohol is watered down. Alcohol is used to keep the water sterile. That's all. Except for, of course, the senior officers. Every once in a while, we treat ourselves to something a little more worthy of our station. But the point of the matter is, getting drunk, letting your crew get drunk on board a ship, you can be taken down at any time. But when you're on shore, whoever doesn't make it back to the ship gets left behind. So suffice it to say, when we're on land, we make up for it. I had to half run to catch up to Lily and followed her presenting hand gesture in order to sit down at my table. She rocked back and forth on her feet, waiting for my order. I asked her for the finest tawny port, at least 10 years old. I also inquired about quail, as I had a craving. I had not had a good meal in weeks, and that was driving me crazy. Well, not like I am not already a little unstable, but low grade food for too long makes it worse. Sorry, cook. I also had enough coin to spare as I had been saving for this. I asked for potatoes and carrots alongside. Lily looked like she was scolding me, so I pulled out my coin to show her that I do, in fact, have the coinage. She smiled large and swept away to the kitchen. The food and drink came fairly fast, so I was planning a good tip. As I sat sipping my port, I felt an uneasiness, as though I had been watched for safety's sake. I always sit with my back to the wall. I looked around the room but saw no one out of place. Still uneasy, I decided to bury myself in savoring every morsel of the tender quail. I ordered some more port to wash down my meal, and a stick of sugar cane to cleanse my palate. That's when I saw her. She was a large, dark woman, clad in robes and beads. She smiled with a devilish smile before she stood up and approached my table. She spoke with a heavy accent, and of tales foretelling the nature of the world. She advised that I should leave the remainder of the food and follow her to her table. I reluctantly followed her as I was curious. She invited me to sit at her table across from her. For the first time in my life, I did not stop to think that my back was now to the room. Even as a noble lady, I am taught to sit with my back to the wall for show and tell, basically, and my male escort or handmaidens would sit in a protecting position with their backs to the room. As a pirate captain, I carried the pattern into the mindset that I am in charge of a pirate ship. I must always be ready to defend myself. Something about the magical woman that I was now sitting across from gave me an eerie ease, and I just simply sat down where she had told me to. It's like she had a magical power over me. She said she is referred to as Mambo Queen Majest, and she is proudly a voodoo priestess. My apologies, priestess. I explained that I was a Christian. I did not normally believe in her voodoo, but with my experience over the last 10 years, I have learned to open my mind to combining my beliefs with that of others. Survival is much more important than impression. I do, after all, fly a Celtic sea dragon, which continues to annoy the nobility I encounter. I am not above using Celtic lore and pagan superstition to get my way when needed. The Mumbo Queen arranged the items on her table in order to make room for something. She then pulled out a skull from her robes and placed it on the table. Very similar to the one I carry with mine, although hers was larger, much larger. She placed it on the table. She stared at it. After much silence, I leaned in to stare at it as well. I was unsure as to what we were waiting for or looking for, but she seemed to tend to see something there. She straightened back out, so I did the same. I watched as she attempted to form words. Fisk. She slowly seeped in a thick Jamaican accent. I looked puzzled at her. She seemed to expect me to know what she was talking about. I braved a simple question. What? Who? Fisk, she snapped as the whole place stared over into our corner. Fisk! Even the innkeeper and the wench stopped to glance over at us. She was very frustrated at me, so she continued, "Your first quartermaster. He will come back." Suddenly I realized who she was talking about. Oh, she meant Fisk. We had left him on an island. He was sick and wished to simply fade away, so we honored that wish and allowed him to choose his final destination. I had not seen or heard from him in years. We simply assumed that he had passed away. I basically told her the short version of that story. She continued to shake her head through the whole tale. Once I had told the story, she sarcastically asked if I was done, and when I nodded, she continued on. "He will come back to haunt you and curse you. He does not like flints. He will follow you wherever you go." She was obviously referring to my present day quartermaster Flint. He had come aboard after several quartermasters had failed to do their jobs. As she spoke these words, a gust of wind passed through the pub, and the candle in front of us blew out. I nodded my head nervously, thanked her for your time, got up and moved quickly back to my table and drank down the last of my port. You know, you should never drink port quickly. It does weird things to your brain. You should sip it. But I did not want to leave it. I wanted to get out of there. I wrapped my remaining food in a napkin to go, which in our case is cloth, and I made quick math of the meal and placed the appropriate amount on the table, made my way to the door. She stood up slowly and quite ominously and called out to me that if I did not pay her for her services, something would happen. I never asked for her services in the first place. I made verbal remarks in that regard as well, and I burst out of the pub. Immediately outside the pub, I hollered, "Crew to me!" and watched as they came crawling out of the various corners of the streets. Some of them still paying their bills as they walked towards me. We quickly made our way down to the main street towards the ship. Flint remarked that I looked as if I had seen a ghost, but I abruptly told him to shut up. Now here's the kicker. First, a carriage drove by and drenched me. Then on the next block I slipped on a loose cobblestone and fell, my food thrown in the air and right into the muck. My hat then got blown off by the wind, and feathers broke. Don't break my feathers. The strap on Flint's bag broke, and ship's coinage spilled all onto the street. I could see our ship in the distance, and there seemed to be a tear in the mainsail. Well, I dropped dead in my tracks. Flint rear-ended me, and the rest of the crew stopped with looks of confusion on their faces. I took a deep breath, thought it over, and turned around. I had had enough. Putting my hat firmly back on my head, straightening down the feather that was now sticking up, and of course straightened out my coat, I returned to the Queen's Head and placed the gold doubloon in front of the priestess. I sharply snapped, because I had no patience at this time. Will that do? She nodded and promised to remove Fisk from me. Well, after a small ceremony where part of it was whispering in Flint's ear and Flint giving her more coinage, I pulled myself together and we headed to the ship. I saw her give the innkeeper a portion of the funds given to her by us. We didn't think twice of it, as we just wanted to leave. Our walk back to the ship, needless to say, was less stricken with mishaps, and so far, Fisk has not shown his outer-worldly face. And I hope he never will, as I have enough ghosts of my own in my past to have to deal with another one, especially since I swore we did what he asked us to do. So those are the stories I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed your time with me and will watch for us in the future. I leave you with my standard closing. May our paths cross in ideal life, and faith never leave us astray. May our ships pass peacefully in the night. I say nothing of the day. Now, if you'll all hold on a moment, closing credits starts to play, and then we'll come back and do the draw. Now I can talk like me. Hi. So, who is my assistant for the draw? And this is your last chance to leave any awards. The music over the video is the cast of the BC Renaissance Festival 2019. I like using the music because it was our beautiful project and an amazing cast, just an amazing cast. Yay! Thank you, Jedi Senshi. So it looks like we have a small draw this time. Now, usually I also add all the sponsors, but the sponsors should be here so that I can tell them to send me, on email the address so I can get the prize out in the mail pretty quick. Um, so if any of the sponsors are on here, please chirp up. All right, for those of you who don't know about the story times, we do them once a month, and we what we do is we put me, yes, honey, and Lisa, and I don't think I saw the others. No, Dawn, no. I'm trying sponsors. Please feel free to suggest days and times, but we move things to Sundays, so we'd like to stay the same day. So if we can modify the time a little bit, but I'd like to keep these on Sundays. I really would like to keep these on Sundays. So those of you who are not used to the story times, basically the sponsors are written into the story, and that's the final credit as to who is and is not a sponsor and which character. And then when we write, we create names based on the theme. And next month we're doing something a little different. I'll run the promo video for that as well. But in October we're doing something a little different than we normally do. But so if any of the sponsors are here, please chirp up. This was interesting doing this alone. Almost 2 hours. Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you so much, Katie. So is someone keeping track as to what sponsors are here and what awards are given? So let's see. We got Jedi Senshi, so 1. We have Lisa, so that's 2. Let me put this down. So that's 2. I'm looking for the words that say active sponsor or the awards. Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Ash, that's 3. Yeah, these broadcasts are usually about 2 hours long. So that's only 3 of you this time. Last time there was like 12 or 13. All right, Ash, are you still here? Tell you what, guys, it's going to be a lot of little random stuff that's easy to mail in an envelope. Yes. Oh, cool. So I don't know why this Sunday in particular is quiet, but that's okay. I'm not gonna blow a gasket. I'm not gonna be a whale. Even though this is a whale of tail, I'm not gonna be a whale. So why don't I give each of you a little prize for being, because I know Jedi Senshi and Lisa are both local, so I can hand deliver theirs, and Ash, I can mail yours. Oh, thank you. You're welcome, Ash. You got lucky. You wound up at the one that's really quiet. Wow. Okay. No. Hey, car hunger at carhunger.com. If Katie can type that out, or here I'm gonna try one-handed leaning over. Oh, that's cool. You're welcome. We do story time once a month. This next month, October is going to be a little different. Usually, it's who's ever a sponsor within the month before, because then it takes to the next month to to get that approval, and it's usually like $7 to do. But for the next month, we're going to do something different because we want to do a Remember Me ceremony, sort of honoring the dead and whole Mexican folklore and the connection to the monarchs. And last year we raised money for the monarchs, and we'd like to do that again this year because they're on the endangered list. So we don't want them to go to extinct. So we're doing something a little different. So why don't I play that video, and then I'll come back and you guys can ask whatever questions you want. You are welcome. Yeah, just a mailing address. And if you want to make sure that I have your real name for the pirate certificate, that's appreciated as well. Um, so I am going to run this video, and then I'm going to let you guys ask some questions.
Remember me, though I have to say goodbye. Remember me, don't let it make you cry. For even if I'm far away, I'll hold you in my heart. I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me, though I have to travel far. Remember me, each time you hear a sad guitar. Know that I'm with you the only way that I can be.
So there you go. October is going to be handled a little differently. And of course, of course, in the case of awards, we're still going to do the draw. Hopefully, there's much more people present this time. In that case, I'm gonna draw the sponsors too, whether they're here or not. I'm gonna draw the sponsors too, because what I want to do is if we make $50 or above collectively in sponsorships and to mid October awards, we'll be able to get the thank you package from the Monarch Fund. And WWF is incredible. They're trustworthy. They're productive. Basically, you're adopting a monarch, so to speak. So the money does go into to that. Education on monarchs. Um, how to encourage monarchs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Kids programs so they can respect things. They also have a honeybee fund. They have a fund for every single animal on the endangered list. So yeah, we go over $50. The draw will be for that package. So what I'll do is I'll get them to mail the package because you can give the package as a gift. So when I submit the money to them, um, we'll get the package sent to the winner. Because Martin and I already got our package last year, so we're gonna make the package the prize. But we have to get over $50 to make it work. That's really special. Thank you. Yeah, we did it. We were supposed to do it locally and in person last year, outside a little Mexican restaurant that's down the beaches, and they were all ready and set up, and then the whole COVID rules and regulations and meant that we couldn't be in the restaurant itself because it's a tiny little restaurant, and I was not going to wear those wings in the weather conditions that were presented to us that night. So we only managed to raise $65 last year, enough for one thank you package. And then what I did was I kept the one butterfly because it comes with three plush butterflies. Um, I kept the one, and I kept two. Sorry, and then the other one went to like a daycare along with the picture and the information sheet. And so basically, I kept the plushes, took a copy of the certificate, and a children's daycare, like junior school type thing, got the rest of it because I think it's much more productive in their hands. So if you're the winner next month, you get it. It gets mailed directly to you, and you can decide what to do. Are my beads rubbing against? They are, aren't they? Thank you, Ash. So There you go. Pirate story time done. Um, I know some of you have been asking about Martin. We're keeping it very quiet. Just know that he had to check himself into the hospital, and he's going to get better. But he can't. He can't have his devices. He can't. He can't be on camera. He can't. He can't even do voice because it's a hospital. So um, he's been avoiding facing a lot of this, and it finally just came to a head. So trust me, I've been with the man for 34 years. Um, there's no hiding things. You saw him on here for a little bit. Uh, you know, he's got to do what he's got to do. So until then, I appreciate any of the support you guys are giving me, any of the help you guys are giving me. I appreciate the love, and yeah, check out our store, um, carhunger.ca, CARRHUNGER. It's weird. I keep leaving the pause like Martin's here, and let me do it this way so it works out to be a link. Apparently, on Haps, if you type it in to the upper bar and then select it and then paste it, wish you both all the best. Thank you. So there you go. That's the store. We're still trying to get rid of things in that one sale, things that we're not going to do anymore. And I'm hoping to get a chance while I'm, you know, to make more product along the cosplay line for the store because that's what we want to focus the props and cosplay. For the next little while, we're not going to worry too much about custom stuff. So, or at least not custom in the sense of something completely custom. Jedi Senshi, yes, your lightsabers will be done, just not right now. And I know we've discussed that, but yeah, we're gonna have to custom within the parameters that you already see on the page in order to recover from all this and get ourselves back together and put ourselves back out there. Brain. Brain is broke, but you can find us as Car Hunger right there, CARRHUNGR, mostly on Instagram and Facebook. So those are our two primaries. So I will leave you. I already said Charity saying because I always love may our ships pass peacefully in the night. I say nothing in the day. In other words, if I can see you, I'm taking you down. That's basically what she's saying. If we're in the middle of the night, let's just everyone turn out your lanterns and glide past each other. We're not gonna battle each other, but when it comes to the daytime, yeah, you're done if I find you. So, but Christina always says, respect yourself more than anyone else can, and everything will be fine. Self-respect, self-love, very, very, very important. Very, very important. And remember, on Haps, you can give awards after, as well as comments after. I will count them if they're after the link here. I will count them towards the Monarch. Remember me, and I will be tagging all of you in the middle of the month as to who has given the right amount of money for October, and asking you for the names of people who have passed away, and whether or not you want 5 or 10 minutes to tell us a story about that person. It could be a person, it could be a pet. We've been asked that before too, whether or not it includes pets. All right. So thank you all, and we'll talk to you all soon. All right. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for joining Charity. She gets lonely sometimes. Her crew is not the best company sometimes. I am looking for my closing video. Ah, there it is. It's moved down a little. Bye.
Keep the time.
We had a great time in Montreal. Montreal was all hard and floors. Right? Go on, camera. Camera.
I'd like to. That's my favorite thing. That's why
Fix it with
people.
hot glue.
No. Well, look hot glue.
So how much styrofoam?
No. Way too much styrofoam. The birds are confused. It's like, what's this city doing?